I tend to paint as I used to call it, the French, in the plein air, and then come back and finish it off in the studio. So definitely there's nothing better than having a couple of canvases in the car and heading up to Megalong Valley for the day and blocking in a few landscapes and then coming back for the next few weeks and finishing them off. My name's Bruce Cameron. I've just retired from Fire Rescue New South Wales after 42 years. I commenced my career actually in Glenbrook as a part-time firefighter. And then as I progressed through, my interest led towards rescue and urban search and rescue. That's major structural collapse and disasters, which sort of formed the path of my career, eventually becoming one of the deployable members of our urban search and rescue and disaster assistance response team, which had worldwide recognition through the United Nations, and went to things like the Boxing Day tsunami in 2004, Christchurch earthquake in 2011, lots of things around Australia as well, major incidents, some floods and cyclones and landslides. The main role of a disaster assistance response team or a USAR urban search and rescue team is building collapses, like the earthquake in Christchurch, which we went to, and the team is skilled up. It's got fire and rescue rescuers, New South Wales ambulance paramedics, 2 doctors off the ambulance helicopter, and engineers, and they go in really to devastated and disaster environments, and using technical search equipment like seismic and acoustic detectors and snake cams and all sorts of things to assess if there's a chance for people to be trapped in voids. Sometimes, like happened in New Zealand, you can actually hear them singing out for help.
10 seconds that felt like an eternity. That was all it took. As the violent and unforgiving February earthquake brought buildings across Christchurch to their knees.
It's daunting, to be honest. Nothing in training prepares you. It'd be like in the military or police, you know, you can fire blanks all day, but when someone's shooting at you, it's a completely different thing. When it's the real world and you know you mightn't get out the other end, it puts another dimension to it.
With no signs of life for more than 24 hours, New Zealanders have been warned to brace for more bad news.
On the streets of Christchurch, it's a hunt for the living. New South Wales rescuers with a local dog team out front.
So I was the team leader of Alpha 1, it was called. So I was in charge of that team in Christchurch, and we were the first international team to arrive after the Kiwis. And it was actually Simon Boda from Channel 9 was there. He'd arrived a little bit after us, and they were filming this major building that had collapsed called the Pine Gould building, and about 20 people had been released overnight by the New Zealand teams, and his cameraman, a guy called Sean Welfare, went over and said, "I can hear someone screaming out. Can we get all the cranes and all the jackhammers and everything shut down so I can actually hear someone?" So we did that. We called all quiet on the scene, and then all of a sudden could hear the voice of this lady singing out for help, and her name was Anne
Bodkin, the woman rescued from the Pine Gould building by Australian firefighters. Today she was reunited with the 9 News crew who first heard her cries for help.
Guys, just be quiet for a second. I had a piece of plastic that I was bashing against the radiator. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't heard my voice.
We alerted the urban search and rescue firefighters, who then mounted a dangerous mission to get her out. Burrowing into the collapsed building, her Aussie rescuers were determined to succeed. They managed to dig their way into the cavity where Anne was trapped.
She'd been trapped for about 22 hours, and it took 4 hours to get her out after we identified that she was squashed under a desk. But she only had a few broken ribs and a couple of scratches, and very lucky lady to be alive. And she sadly was the last live victim to be rescued in the whole of Christchurch, and everything after that were body recoveries. Come here. No, it's a great spot living here in the mountains because of the area. Here's an old ancient volcanic diatreme, old volcano that's eroded away and left all this lovely grasslands. It's great for mountain biking and walking in the bush. Close to everything, but so far away. And it's about just applying the paint. Even the grass, native grasses there were done with a palette knife. So I just wanted to do something different and that showed the ruggedness of the granite boulders, and that was sort of really achievable by using a palette knife and not a brush. I've never had a lesson in painting, never had a single lesson, but I've always painted, and I think it's always been a really good release, and it connects you with the bush. You need to have those creative areas of your life, I think, to get through, because if you came home and just dwelled on the day you've just been through, or the week, or the event, you'd probably finish up in the corner sucking your thumb, whereas I always came home and looked at doing things to clear my mind, and it did, and then I was right to go back to work when my roster came around to start fresh again. I don't want to paint an old shed, or I have done a few portraits and played around and stuff, but I actually get a lot more enjoyment out of just painting sort of wilderness landscapes or things without objects or people in them, because that's the space I want to be in. My mind set, I think, at the time is, you know, a pool in the Blue Mountains with a reflection, or a rocky ridge line. Those, you know, it almost carries you away to where you are. You see some pretty horrific things and deal with really sad things, you know, telling the mother that the kid hasn't made it or whatever. There's some really tough and prickly days that you have out there. So by writing, painting, bushwalking, all those things, and it's all connected to the environment, I think were integral in me getting through my career. You'll always have that connectivity, that connection to your comrades and your people you work with. That's probably certainly not a Zoom meeting that I miss, I can tell you that. But you know, dealing with people, helping people, that's the bit that you miss.